It's a beautiful morning here on Cape Cod. The birds are chirping, spring is in the air. And tonight, President Biden gives his first address to Congress. And I want to reflect a little bit on politics from a process perspective this morning. I've written extensively on process and politics in my book, Process, Theology, and Politics, an upcoming book, Talking Politics with Jesus, a process reflection on the Sermon on the Mount. I believe process theology has something to say about our political situation. Process theology is not partisan, but it has a bias. Process theology believes there are many right approaches to solving our problems, yet we need also to remember that some are better than others. And we also need to remember the power of the penultimate, that oftentimes the best we can achieve, and it is good, is what Whitehead calls the best for that impasse. That politics is the art of the possible in which we try to achieve the best we can. And that reminds us that the perfect is often the enemy of the good. We need to move forward the moral and spiritual arcs of history, and sometimes have to do that incrementally, and sometimes radically and drastically. Process theology believes that theology matters. You can see the impact of theology over the past year. Theological perspectives have determined our attitudes toward mask wearing, church attendance, vaccinations, issues of justice and policing, issues of climate change, how we view God, how we view God's place in the world, how we view our own agency, how we view the goal of history, and the relationship of a person to their environment shapes our theology. Is our theology one of independence, binary absolutes, in and out, saved and unsaved? Is our theology one that's inclusive and sees God with us, immanent in the historical process? Process theology believes that God is the organ of novelty and change. Yes, God does preserve the past, but also God also pushes the present moment toward future horizons. God's aim in the universe is the achievement of beauty, and God is the architect and the energy behind the moral and spiritual arcs of history that aim toward beauty and justice and healing. Process theology advocates what I describe as a healing politics. A healing politics takes seriously interdependence. We are connected. There is no such thing as a rugged individualist. There's no such thing as an isolated individual or an isolated nation. Nation first is a fallacy. We are all, as it has been said, in the same storm. We need to be in the same boat. This COVID has reminded us that relationship is primary and no nation is safe until every nation is safe. Process theology affirms a universality of values. Values matter, and each entity has some value apart from human uses. The non-human world matters, children matter, elderly people matter, and deserve ethical consideration. Process theology is an adherent to the notion of creative transformation, that in this moment there is freedom. In this moment we can change. In this moment there is novelty. That health involves going beyond the past and being lured toward a creative and just and healing future. This all leads us to a sense of God who is part of the process, God who is our companion, God who feels our pain and rejoices in our joy, an empathetic God for whom everyone has a home, with whom everyone can be a partner, a God who inspires empathy and reminds us that we are the hands and feet of God and that God needs our companionship in healing the world. God can't do it on God's own. God needs us. There are no absolute public policy perspectives that come out of process theology, but there's some directions. The first is world loyalty. Love your country, but also love the world. Honor your country, advocate for your country, but remember, we are connected, and that the health of one country is dependent upon the health of all countries. Process theology believes there's a moral and spiritual arc that aims toward beauty and justice, and we need to evaluate our public policy with questions like, does it promote justice? Does it promote accessibility? Does it help children succeed? Does it help people experience beauty? Process theology sees circles of civility as part of public policy. A person of stature embraces and honors diverse viewpoints. A person of stature takes seriously others and tries to affirm them rather than denigrate them. Process theology invites us to be fact and science-oriented. Wherever truth is present, God is its source, whether in the library or their sanctuary, whether in the chemistry laboratory or in chanting or contemplation. We need to honor science. We need to take science seriously. We need to honor the best thinking philosophically, scientifically, theologically, biologically, as congruent with God's truth. Finally, process theology invites us as citizens to go beyond individualism. Yes, we are centers of value. Yes, our freedom is important. Yes, our creativity is important. But as Bill McKibben says in relation to climate change, the best thing we can do to respond to climate change, the best thing an individual can do to respond to climate change is quit being an individual and see themselves as part of a larger creative network of life. We are connected, Ubuntu, we are one. So as you look at Biden's speech this evening, as you look at the president's speech, see if he's encouraging interdependence and civility and beauty and justice and care for one another, and invites us to go beyond our individualism, to be loyal to one another, our nation, and the world. Thank you, and may we be blessed today with peace, justice, and love.